Can you pull up the presentation? Thank you. So just here on the cover, you've got, just a schematic of the layout of the facility. I don't know when the last time folks have been in there, but, I can tell you I'd been in there obviously with my kids over time and things like that, but I did not realize it's a 19,000 plus square foot facility. So it's a good sized facility. I don't know. There we go. So just a little bit of background again on the facility. So we were notified, late this fall about the board's decision over there. At that time, I think they were looking at terminating the lease the end of the calendar year. That got moved up to, and we took, that lease was terminated November 15th. Again, with termination of that lease, that facility then reverts back to the city. I think we've been working very cooperatively with their management and their board to try to get things tidied up here. Some other information on it, there's your borough parcel number. The borough has that facility assessed at $8.22 million. It sits on a 2.3 acre lot. The facility was built in 1999, so it's 26 years old this year. And again, it's 19,109 square feet facility. When we did take it over, we did ask finance. They worked with, again, with Challenger folks to determine the financial impact to the city just for taking over operations of it through the end of this calendar year. You have ordinance 3496, 2025 that will be before you tonight for adoption. That will provide a supplemental appropriation of nearly $83,000 to get us to through June 30th of 2026. You can look at some of the bills here. They're averaging just about $6,250 for gas and electric per month, water and sewer. You've got a fire alarm. You got the building automation system. You've got the internet, insurance, $16,000 annually, and then we talked with Mr. Dillon over there and looking at some of the amenities in the building that would really be lacking if anyways, we talked about tables and chairs and things like that we think continue to make that facility usable. And so purchasing a few of those things one time from Challenger too for about $10,000. Beyond what you'd likely to see in fiscal 27 budget request, this will be new for next year, of about just over $100,000 if we don't have, that's what's going to cost for utilities and things for a full fiscal year for us. Public Works did do a facility assessment, and I'll just defer here to Mr. Fry if he wants to talk a little bit about what they found.
Sure. Thank you. So we kind of did a quick brief rundown through everything. We've done a couple walkthroughs with Mr. Dillon and some of his staff. Carmel Krasolik, our building foreman, has been over there working on the building quite a bit. So we've got a pretty good idea of what's going on over there at this point. Building interior is in great shape. They've done a fantastic job of maintaining everything, so we don't really see any issues there. The roof of the building should be due for a roof replacement in about 5-7 years. That being said, the roof is operating in good shape right now. We don't have any leak issues. There's one leak issue that we were aware of that they've previously dealt with. It seems to be more of a heavy snow issue that can be mitigated. So right now the roof is in good functioning shape. It's just kind of an age of life thing that we'd be looking at replacement around that time, but it could be extended further. Fire alarm system, we are going to be doing a walkthrough with that with our annual fire alarm contractor. That's typically around June every year. So we'll be getting an update on that. If there's any changes, we find minor deficiencies every year when we do that, of just things failing or needing to be replaced. So we'll get an update on that when we do that this summer. Mechanical systems, we've got the boilers operating. We had some issues with those. We've been able to make some fixes. We do have a contractor coming down to do a full service on the boilers, and we're going to get an evaluation at that time. But Carmel thinks the boilers are in pretty good shape and should last us another 10 plus years. He thinks there are some minor things, some pumps and things like that for circulation that could be changed out. Potentially, but he's waiting for those guys to come down and do their walkthrough and kind of give us a better evaluation of that. So that with the building automation system, there are some minor things that have broken here and there. The major thing is a heating coil in the air exchange system that is going to be difficult to repair. That's it. I mean, the building's in operation. It's fine now. It's not like it's an immediate drastic need to repair, but those things together, could be around $100,000, could be $50,000. It's kind of just an estimate that we're plugging in that there could be some money there to make some improvements to that. And the last thing was just accessibility and code compliance. We don't really see any issues with that right now in our walkthrough, so everything else is looking pretty good over there.
Thank you. A couple other things to note about the facility. So the city received the land that Challenger was built on from Kenai Peninsula Borough. At the time that land was donated to the city from the borough placed a deed restriction on the property that restricts its use to a government purpose. Now, the administration plans to work with borough administration and try to remove that deed restriction to give us the greatest flexibility for what we could use that property or what that property could become. But there is a deed restriction on it, and it's something we're going to be working for with, like I said, with the borough administration, trying to get that lifted. So we can definitely keep council apprised of how those discussions go. But I just want to make sure that you're aware, at this point, it could limit some of our opportunities there. Another thing we looked at is to look at the zoning. That property is currently zoned education. That could be compatible with future uses. It could be incompatible with future uses. It's something that we're going to continue to monitor, and as potential uses come up, we'll definitely be taking into consideration the zoning. It may need to be rezoned in the future, depending on what potential use is identified. So zoning definitely should be a consideration. One option that we wanted to present to council is at tonight's meeting, after this work session, you will be receiving a report from the architect who did the evaluation and programming on our public safety facility. One option we could examine is the use of the Challenger Center as a replacement facility for the Kenai Police Department dispatch or the fire department. It's something, like I said, it's if you look at the requirements that are being put forward by the architect for either of those departments in the future, it's a little bit bigger than what is needed, but not substantially bigger. And I think it could potentially be a cost savings to the city. Just one idea. If that's something that is amenable to council, we'll have to likely appropriate a little bit more money, but we could have the architect evaluate that facility as a potential use for one of those two. It's obviously going to take some renovation, but again, it's 19,000 square foot building under roof. I don't know how the cost of remodeling that or retrofitting that would compare to building new somewhere, but it's something that should definitely be considered, or is potential to be considered. Another option that the administration's been working on is to issue a RFI, request for interest. This would put it out to both for-profit and nonprofit entities, and could be other governments like the borough or school district, for requests for interest in use of the facility, and seek those requests or responses to that request, and see what's out there and what proposed uses there are. There's definitely, we've definitely had expressed interest. I've been contacted by at least one real estate agent with an entity in town that would be interested in potentially purchasing it. I've talked to, we had principal of a charter school show up. I know the school district and Mr. Clayton and his crew walked through the facility. I spoke to Mayor Machicki about any potential borough interest. So we've been rattling out there and looking to see what's out there. But an RFI, like I said, we could solicit that. That could garner interest from private enterprise as well. So that's another option we're considering. Other options we've looked at is coordination with some of our educational partners. Last fall, we did provide a proposal to Kenai Peninsula College over there. It wasn't on this facility, it was on the Fire Training Center and potentially relocating some of their programs over there. We think Challenger could be another location potentially for relocation of some programs. This is one of the facilities we did tour with the director of AvTech when he came over, and its potential use for that. Again, we've had charter school interest. I know the school district, sees potential in it, especially with its proximity to KCHS right there on that campus. So we think that there's some merit to this. Another use, it's become more and more used over the years, is a lot of high school and sports teams have been using the dormitory facilities of Challenger when they come down here to compete. And, I think that was one way Challenger was raising some revenues using their facility for that. I don't think this is something that staffing wise and normally the city's really prepared for. It would require some janitorial and other things, but we did talk about one option is to, if we got a special use permit with a local nonprofit or entity that wanted to operate it like that. And what comes to mind for me is I was approached by the GM for the Anchorage Bucks, I believe, Sean Maltby, Sean used to live here on the peninsula. He was with Peninsula Oilers at one time. This is the facility that I think all of the teams in the Alaska Baseball League were planning to utilize this summer when they came down here to compete with the Oilers, who are planning to be back in operations this summer. I think what's different about that is I think it's difficult here in the summer to find this amount of accommodations, and especially this amount of accommodations not at peak prices, as opposed to in the winter. I know there's capacity in our local hotels and things like that, everybody wants to do it as inexpensively as they can. I appreciate that. I understand that. I just not necessarily sure if it's in our best interest sometimes to compete with private enterprise out there. But that is something we could explore. We could explore that on a limited basis, like over the summer, if that's something that there was interest in doing. So next steps. We just wanted to have a good conversation with council here this evening. Obviously, no formal action can be taken. We are in work session. But based on the conversation, I think it can give the administration direction, and we'll continue to work on the facility and potential uses for it as we move forward.
Okay, we'll go from, appreciate that. Are there any council questions of the city manager? Zavala.
Thank you. Terry, thanks for the report and the work on this already. I was curious, one question is, what's the current public safety facility size?
City Manager Eubank.
Great question, Councilman, or through the mayor, Councilman Zavala. Or Cassena, I don't know off the top of my head. I can, help me, Lee, 15,000 square feet,
I believe it's 21,000 square feet total with garage space.
With garage space. You will, that information is going to be presented tonight. You will, you will have the answer to that. What is being projected, I think in both cases, just a little sneak peek, is about 16,000 square feet for police. Police is a little bigger. I think police is about 16,000, fire is about 15,000, excluding garage space and bay space. So this building is 19,000, so it's a little bigger than the under roof square footage that they're looking for, but again, I still think it's a reasonable consideration and something we could have the architect take a look at and see if he thinks would be any, could result in a cost savings.
Councilmember Petty.
Yes, Mayor. Terry, did the borough give rationale about why they put a deed restriction on that? Was that land previously the borough's land? Or was it our land? How did that work?
City Manager Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Petty, through the mayor. As far as rationale, that happened 26 years ago, so we'd have to do a little bit of digging on legislative intent there. My understanding is the borough received the land from Mental Health Trust. Mr. Bootner gave me some information today. We haven't confirmed or looked totally into, but it seemed like the borough may have swapped a piece of their property with Mental Health Trust in order to get this parcel, and then donated this parcel to the city. I can't speak to rationale. I could speculate that the discussion at that point was they wanted to make sure that, this land, if they're giving it to the city at no charge, is used for what their intended purpose is. But
Thank you for that clarity. I appreciate it.
Councilmember Savala.
Thank you.
Casina.
A couple other questions. Is it possible to do the request for interest and also pursue an initial evaluation of the space for fire and EMS overall?
City Manager.
yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Casana. Yeah, I think absolutely we could run those simultaneously. I think what we're attempting to do is make sure we get the highest and best use for the city and the residents out of that facility.
And then maybe this is a question for the presentation later, but if the proposed use would be for fire department, would that include space for the equipment? And then how would we control egress and access to that space without lights or anything like that? Would that include installing new traffic control measures to get in and out of that space efficiently?
City Manager Eubank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Casana, yeah, that's what I anticipate the architect going through is, they're going to have to do a site evaluation. They're going to have to look at, access to the highway and all of the things that you're discussing there, and not just the facility. And I think that compatibility, whether it's with fire or police, is the same. We want to make sure that we're not creating a problem by trying to locate something there. There is a significant amount of garage space that both entities would like in a new facility, so that would have to be constructed on that site as well. So it's looking at the entire site, the entire layout, looking at, all of those parameters like you just discussed. But I think that's why we think it would be best if we want to evaluate that to have the architect go ahead and do that at this time.
I'd like to go to Mr. Daniel. He's online, and I know he has limited time tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Naxted. So quick question, two things. One, I agree with Councilmember Casina. I would like to explore both of those avenues and see what we get. But a curiosity on the request for interest, what does that process look like? How do you go about and solicit that information from the community?
City Manager Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Daniel. So the process we would enter is we would put together basically a facility summary, laying out, all of the parameters of the existing facility. We would then basically request from the entities that they provide, what their interest is, whether that's lease, whether that is some sort of purchase agreement. what sort of activity they plan to do on that site. And then we can compare those one versus the other in an evaluation model and determine, highest rank, which is something the city could then pursue if it's in our best interest. We don't have to pursue any of them if we don't feel it's in our best interest. But it's just really going out instead of, the city, the administration trying to dictate what we think is the best use of this facility, is opening it up to the market and the community and seeing what their ideas are and what other opportunities we may not be considering that could be out there.
Councilmember Grammy?
One of the slides indicated initial cost of about $10,000 for tables and chairs. I assume that's the tables and chairs that they use when the facility is rented out for events and such. So if the city is potentially purchasing those, is the expectation that that space will continue to be used in that capacity if we have an investment in this equipment that's going to be in the building?
City manager?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Grimmy. Yeah, I think what we wanted to do is we wanted to preserve the opportunity to continue. That space has been used in the past as meeting space for different events that have gotten held here in town. We wanted to still have the opportunity. If at some point that facility gets used for something else, then we would likely be looking for a home for those tables and chairs. Likely places that they could be utilized would be our visitor center, could be our senior center. So I really just didn't want to lose the ability with a commercial kitchen there and that large meeting space to not have tables and chairs to be able to utilize it. And, there was other miscellaneous equipment that I think when we walked through with Tim, that we identified that they were looking to get rid of. I think this TV hanging on the wall here is an example. It's quite a bit larger than the one was down here. There's some equipment for the library, some smart boards and things that the Challenger had just recently purchased that I think we can put to really good use in some of our facilities. There was a lot of programming supplies and things like that I think that the library is going to use in their own programs and things like that. So, I know that Challenger was looking for ways to raise the funds to pay all their bills and pay their staff. That was their major goal, and I think, hopefully we helped in that, but I think we also got great value for the city in that $10,000.
Go ahead.
So my follow-up question then would be, and I know it's only been a month. I mean, obviously I haven't had the opportunity to solidify much of anything, but you mentioned it has been a meeting space in the past. We would maintain the equipment necessary for that. Is continuing to provide that, and maybe not immediately, but in the short term or in the future, something that the city has considered continuing to make available to not only residents of Kenai, but outside the area? I mean, I know lots of different places have had events and parties, wedding receptions, et cetera, there over the years.
Councilmember Grammy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Grimmy. It's something we're definitely considering. I think what we'd be looking for if we want to pursue that actively would be to engage with, a partner to assist us in that. Maybe it's the chamber, since they already manage and I have no idea if they have interest. So I've not had any conversations with Sam or the chamber, so I'm not trying to put anybody out there. But, the chamber, for instance, already rents out that facility to the public. They're set up to do it, and they're ready to do it. Things like that. So I think we'd be looking for a partner, kind of an opportunity like that. I don't really foresee any of our departments right now having the capacity to jump in and try to take that on. But we could look for a partner out there, another agency or entity that could help us with that. But I think long-term, the best solution is for us to find a permanent use for the building.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Askin, did you still have a question?
I did not.
Okay, any further questions of the city manager?
Just a quick follow-up. Sorry,
Go ahead.
didn't mean to jump on in there like that. In the immediate short term, is there going to be any use? The city is going to try to use it for anything? Are we going to use it for any trainings? Like, do you have any plans at all, or just kind of we're just going to get it set up and see where we go?
City manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Daniel. Like, right now, no, we don't have any planned immediate uses. You know, we've been working, again, I think Challenger Center and, you know, Mr. Dillon have been doing an amazing job of just trying to clean the rest of their stuff out of that building. And, you know, we have not been pressing that with them because we don't, you know, we've just been doing our investigation and things. So, there's still some stuff in there. I think he's just still trying, really targeting to get it out as soon as he can. But no, we have no immediate uses. You know, I did have a conversation with Chief Teague today. The Kenai Fire Department is going to be hosting a firefighter conference here at some point in the future. That was a facility that's been used in the past. I did say if it is still available, I see it as a potential place for us to use as a place to hold trainings and things like that during an event like that. But we're not actively soliciting for events or anything like that at this point.
I've got a question or two. I was concerned or questioning the building efficiency, if that's something that we could evaluate. I don't know how many dollars for utilities per square foot, you know, how reasonable that is, just part of our consideration. I don't think you have that number right now, but that's something you could look up. The second one has to do with the deed restrictions, and my understanding of deed restrictions is they're almost cut in stone, but I guess they can be reversed. I just don't know what that process looks like or what it might look like, and maybe a legal question too.
Thank you, Mayor Naxted. It would likely require legislation at a minimum by the borough, and probably a legislative request from the city as well.
So basically, it would just be between the two parties, then that would be it. There's no.
Correct. I think because the borough's the one that placed the restriction on it, there's probably an avenue for them to remove the restriction that they placed.
Thank you. Any further council questions? We can circle back if we need to. Oh, sorry, Phil, Mr. Daniel.
No problem. I didn't want to blurt out again, make everybody jump like last time. This might, I don't know if we have an answer for this. It's more of a curiosity, and maybe it's a question more suited for Mr. Dillon. Did the, I don't even know what that's called, that training simulator thing at the high school pool? I'm assuming that's separate from the building because that helicopter thing. I think the Challenger is running that. I could be wrong. Is there any involvement with the city on that, or is that a separate deal? I guess that's the question.
I'll let the city manager answer that one.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Daniel. Yeah, you're talking about the Hewitt trainer that's in the high school's pool, and no, that is not part of the facility that the city did, that reverted to the city. And I don't know what Challenger's planning to do with it, but it definitely does not involve the city at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further council questions? At this point, I'd be open to any public comments. We do have some folks here that might have some opinions or whatever. Is there anyone? Yeah, go ahead and speak.
Hi, thank you, Mayor. Ryan Tunseth, resident of Kenai.
And Assembly President.
And also Assembly President,
We
yes,
were kind
sir.
of talking about the Assembly.
And I also serve, I'm recently elected as the president of the Boys and Girls Club as well. So I think you guys are on the right track, looking at, kind of all the options here. That makes a lot of sense. Certainly, if there was a, request for interest, I think that there would be interest. One of the things that we look at wearing my hat with Boys and Girls Club, of course, we just built a beautiful facility over there, thanks in large part to your donation of land. We were able to make that happen. And one of the things that we, sort of run into in programming there is, we bring those kids up through 6th grade, but after that, we're really kind of looking to move them into career and technical education and that sort of thing. And so if there was an option for that, we would certainly support it. I'm sure that we would be interested in looking at even, operating the facility for something like that if that was a need. But so, definitely if there was a request for information, I think that we would, have some interest and certainly want to, be at the table for that reason, because that really is something that continues to kind of stick out as a need for us, to kind of bring kids, from that grade school level up into high school and start looking towards, what they're going to do for jobs and work in the future and stuff like that. So on the borough side, it sounds like you're already working with administration on that end. And so I think that's, the right path. I confirmed with the mayor, he's looking at it. So he's been talking with Terry and working on that as well. And so as your attorney stated, I'm sure that it would take, a resolution by us. But like I said, I'll wait until that kind of comes through the mayor's office, and then we'll look at it. But otherwise, I wouldn't see, at least, not speaking for the entire assembly, but on my end, that there wouldn't necessarily be a problem with that. So again, just thank you guys for the work that you've done already. Obviously, a lot of work put into it, and I'm sure that you'll choose the best path, whatever is the best fit for you guys, whether it's for public safety use or whatnot. But just know that if it is something that you're looking to have interest from nonprofits and other people, that we totally would be at the table for that and appreciate that as well. So that's all. If you guys have any questions for me, I'd do my best, but that's all I got.
Mr. Kucina, go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
Good to see you in the roles reversed for once.
Yeah, right.
Acknowledging that you're part of many other groups as well, do you see any other groups that you participate in potentially looking at this space as well?
It sounds like you guys had kind of hit on a couple of those and identified it already. I haven't spoke with any of these entities, but I would just logically sort of think one of them that might be interested is the alternative school, because that was recently a discussion of Aurora trying to get a charter to have a high school program there. And the difficulty with that was, moving the other kids into finding a place for them to go. And so that could be one option where you might see some interest from the Borough School District, and it sounds like you've had those discussions as well. But I would also think, and it might be, oh gosh, how do I want to say this without sounding too political, but I'm sure that there would be interest from private schools and other people potentially wanting to have a charter school. I guess, just advise some caution with that approach there. In some ways, it feels like the more that we have private and charter school operations, that we erode the actual base of the school district. So, but I'm sure that you would have interest on that front as well. On private industry side, I wouldn't think much, but I also like to sort of, in my mind, I envision this sort of like a Joe Rizzo type play or something that would be like, when the LNG comes, we'll all be rich and there'll be all kinds of things going on. So if something like that were ever to come to fruition, I'm sure, but it's very cliche, when the LNG comes, probably have lots of that interest as well. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming, and appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Anybody else from the audience or anybody online that would like to speak? Seeing nobody. Before we do adjourn, I'm not sure, City Manager Eubank, if you kind of got a feel for what council might be thinking. You feel pretty comfortable? Maybe you ought to kind of just let us know what you heard, because there's quite a bit that was said.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Well, I think it's more important what I didn't hear is I didn't hear any opposition to any of the ideas that we threw out. I think what I more interpreted from the discussion here tonight is that council's interested in the administration continuing to look at all options for this facility and try to maximize the benefit for the city and the community. So,
And when could we expect something maybe to come back? We're going to have another work session?
we can definitely have another work session. I just want to make sure that it's beneficial and that we have, you know, something to share. I think at this point, you know, we're going to, you know, continue to work on the deed restriction. We'll likely be bringing legislation back to council, proposing some supplemental funds and a contract amendment for the architect to do a facility, you know, examination for public safety, potential public safety use over there. And we'll start working on the RFI scenario and putting that together. And, you know, I may reach out to an organization like the Peninsula Oilers and see if they have any interest potentially on use of that facility this summer to assist them with bringing baseball back to our area here. If that's something they could do and work with those teams in Anchorage on a limited basis. And like I said, especially during the peak season, when I think it would be difficult for those organizations to find another place to house those teams when they come down here to play. But
Councilmember Petty had her light on first.
Yes, through the mayor, city manager, Mr. Eubank. If there was a private industry that wanted to lease it from the city, the entity would still, I mean, the facility would still be government. Could that possibility of a variable be on the table?
Eubank?
yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Petty. How far the definition of a government purpose can be stretched, I think, is up to interpretation. I think best case scenario is just to pursue removal of that deed restriction if that's possible, and that would be in, you know, the spirit of everything. I think is the right way to do it. So I think
Sure.
that's something we'd like to pursue, but I think everything is an option, and you know, I think a government purpose could be interpreted very broadly by some and very narrowly by others. But I would like to first try to explore giving us greatest opportunities.
Councilmember Grammy?
Just, I guess, a word of caution or a concern that I want to put out into the atmosphere is that the Challenger Center is adjacent to Kenai Central High School, the hockey rink, Kenai Middle School is in close proximity, the vocational center for KCHS is right there as well. So I just want us to be sure that we are considering that with whatever we decide to do moving forward, that what goes into that building or is using that space is going to be a cohesive fit with what is, you know, kind of one of the educational hearts of our city, and shouldn't disrupt that, interfere with that, provide, you know, extra noise or stress or whatever would interfere with what's going on there now from an educational perspective. I know they're separate, but it's right in the middle between, you know, those areas, and kids and parents and everybody else go right past that building, going in and out of those educational areas every day. So just something that I think we need to be very mindful of as we decide what to do next with this space.
I tend to agree with Councilmember Grammy. I think also that because where it's at, you're absolutely right. But, you know, we kind of also, as a city, have to look at what our mission is as a city. We're not a school. We're not a lot of things. And to take on something that maybe is more of a borough or some other entity job and then own the building and all of that, I think that's something we need to be cognizant about as well. You know, just the city's position in owning something like that and running it, it might be beyond what we should be doing. Councilmember Grammy?
I don't disagree, and I'm not suggesting we do one thing or the other at this point. Just being mindful that, maybe, I don't know, maybe like a busy bustling something in that space when kids are there learning, driving in and out, going back and forth. Just, we have the ability to be picky, I think, to some degree, and to be sure that what we choose for that space to be used for is appropriate for what's already there. That's the I guess the point I want to make, is to just be mindful of what's going on around that space already.
Any further comments from the council? Since we did that, I'm going to go back to the audience. Is there anybody online or anyone that has anything more? Okay, thank you, Mr. Eubank, for that. Oh, yeah, Chief. Yeah, absolutely.
I actually just kind of want to tag on to what Councilmember Greamy brought forward. When considering not trying to outsell my police partners, talking with parents and neighbors and whatnot, looking at the feasibility of that facility for public safety. There's some considerations that I'd like the council to consider if it were determined feasible to maybe utilize that facility for my particular department, because it does a couple of things for the city. We do respond quite frequently to the schools. We have a lot of athletic events taking place. We respond to traumas and things like that. That would put us closer to a lot of our youth for calls like that. But it also shifts our response district about a mile and a half to the east, which doesn't negatively affect us for our fire department structural fire responses on the west side of the town. But it would allow us to pick up a couple of subdivisions on the east side for our constituents that are not within our 5-mile bubble, which affects their property insurance rates. And that would also centralize us a little bit more within our response district, and therefore perhaps lower our average response times for the fire department for both EMS and fire response. So I think there would be some financial benefit there to consider for our taxpayers. I don't believe having the fire department next to an educational facility like the high school would be a detriment as well, because one of the things that we do have in our strategic planning is we hope to bring a Explorer program back to the city of Kenai and run by the fire department. I know the loss of the Challenger Center being an educational facility there was a lot of public sentiment about the loss of some of this educational programming and what they offered. And if we were to utilize that facility as a kind of a trade and training program, we would be able to host high schoolers within Kenai to come and gain certification and journeyman level training as a first responder, which also meets another goal that I have with the Kenai Fire Department. Is we have difficulty finding homegrown, raised up talent in a local area that meet the necessary qualifications for hiring with our department. And so, the city manager alluded to it earlier, we've been trying to work out some deals with KPC. I was part of that proposal, reaching out to KPC to try to maybe bring their paramedicine program in a firefighter certification program back to Kenai. So we already have an active partnership with them. I think we could facilitate college level credit training where high schoolers get college level credit for a journeyman frontier program as a first responder with the fire department. And that helps my recruiting problem. It also brings a educational aspect back to Kenai that facility would be utilized for. The chairs and things that the city has purchased, I would hope to maintain that main meeting space within that department as a multi-use room and facility still available to the city and other entities. It would also solve my problem right now where I cannot host regional trainings right now because I don't have the space. It's also a problem that I think would benefit the police department. They obviously have to have more training space as well. But that multi-use part of that facility would still be available to the city, even if we did move the fire department or even the police department in there. I don't think Chief Ross would be opposed to, if he was to gain the facility, making it multi-use space for the city as well. So I just want to throw that out there to some of your comments and concerns that were raised. But, you know, obviously I have extreme bias. You know, so, but trying to think what's best for the city overall. I know you guys are going to go down that route, and I'm glad you're exploring every option, but just know that, and I'll speak a little bit for Chief Ross too, whether police or fire got that facility, I think it would be an extreme benefit, cost effectively down the road for the city of Kenai, as you'll see in some of the slides and numbers that'll be presented during the council member of the meeting tonight. But we're very flexible. And, you know, we support, and we're a big team. I'm very happy to be a part of this team. I'm happy with the direction the city manager and the council so far has taken on a lot of issues since I've gotten here. So I just want to say thank you and for the consideration. And my door is always open. I know some of you have already reached out to me, but if you have any questions at all, myself, Chief Ross, please feel free to reach out at any time.
Yep, just in case there's any questions for you, Chief, anybody have a question for the chief? Oh, thanks for coming back. I guess with that, since we do have the police chief here, do you have a? Anyway, I won't push it. Any further questions? Are you going to? You kind of moved the mic over, then you ceased. So, Chief Ross.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. I think you guys are going down a good road, the city manager, getting this studied and come up with the best solution.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further comments or anything, we will adjourn.